Welcome everybody to The Night Shift, presented by me because we no longer have Intel as a sponsor for now, but that's okay because we're still coming at you with the Deadlock, the hot Deadlock action, and it's getting as spicy as ever. We don't have our funny costumes on today though, guys. How are you feeling?
I'm sad. You know, I didn't get to rock my Halloween costume. No, I needed the day off. Honestly, I'll take it. Presented by you, the viewer, I think this week. Honestly, you know, it's the good people of the Cursed Apple here in the stream, here in the Deadlock community, keeping the show running, allowing us to continue delivering these wonderful esports days.
What was your outfit though? Actually, what did you dress up?
I was gonna be Pocket. I have a Pocket costume hidden away in the closet. I'll save it for next year. I'll be back. I'll be back. It's a promise.
Are there any pictures? I feel like we got robbed a bit.
I'll have to put it together, take a picture for the people. Maybe make that a sub goal.
What about you, ZP? I heard that you may be in a lot of pain today. Is it kind of like a Schrodinger's situation? You maybe are or are not in pain at the same time?
It's okay right now. Yesterday was a bad luck day. Everything that could have went wrong, it did go wrong. And, a molar got cracked. But I'm getting into the dentist tomorrow. And for now, it's fine. Also, costume-wise, look, I'm just saying the hordes can come out at any time. Blue paint, though, that was a bit of a pain. But, a bit of scrubbing. And, a week later, I think we got most of it off. So, we're good.
I mean, Pocket's not here, but I have to say it. So ZP is ready to get horny at any given moment. So just remember that, guys. I'm
just imagining ZP being like a little bit blue going to Starbucks or something. People are like, sir, the
delicious
it was Halloween. I did have cover. It was Halloween.
That is fair. That is fair.
From what I saw on Reddit, though, ZP, wiping it off wasn't the only way you got the blue paint off.
Jason, go away. You're not hot until NA. Get out of here.
Nice. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the schedule, see what action we got coming up today on the night shift. Obviously, kicking things off with Europe, as always. Got Fearless Furies against Gooballs for our Challengers game, and the winners will be against Abrahams. And then we have for NA the Unks versus Bunny with Clock. Okay, we'll get into the rosters on that one later. Versus Melee Creeps in the finals match. But to kick things off here, today's guy Fearless Furies and Gooballs is an interesting one. Fearless Furies are kind of a newer roster, I suppose, that we're starting to see come into Deadlock Night Shift, and I think it's got a lot to do with their performance that they showed us in the Trolley Open.
Yeah, and part of it is that was a really cool thing about running an open bracket that had, so many different teams across both regions, is that it gave us a, sort of a scene refresh of going, okay, what teams have maybe we overlooked in terms of invites that the players themselves have overlooked, but also in EU, what we got told by a lot of players that, hey, a lot of these teams, don't even necessarily exist until you have a big tournament, but if you get some good results, they stick around for a while, and Fearless Furies is one of those teams where also some teams die as a result. Like Lodo's full died. They were a mainstay here in the program, and they're gone, but some of their members now exist on Fearless Furies, so you got a process of reconsolidation going on.
With death comes new life, sometimes old teams need to die for a new team to be reborn and maybe yet stronger than before. So I'm always excited to see these new contenders coming onto the scene. It's awesome to see Trolley inject that incredible opportunity to have a higher level competition in Deadlock. Into the fans really responded, and I'm super stoked the event went off so well. That being said, got to get back to the weekly event, man. Got to clock in, baby, and that is why we're here on the night shift.
Absolutely, and it's a great opportunity to mention our Patreon. If you guys want to support the show, especially now that we are presented by us, I don't know, we've got to really decide. I want to make it about me, guys. Can it be presented by me?
No, it's about our board member, Tetsio, the board member, clocking in, Apex executive. Got a healthy contingent of managers. And you know what? We appreciate the residents too. Every little bit counts. I know different people in different places in life, so it just means a lot that people are coming together to directly support us to ensure that we can keep coming back week after week after week and delivering Deadlock esports. Man, we're here for the long haul. We're trying to make this thing work all the way to launch and far beyond it. So.
Look, we said this previously in older broadcasts, but definitely being it when it comes to night shift is let's bring this to 100, right? Let's the goal right now is to run pretty much every week. Maybe not, by the way, the last 2 weeks of December, because December it's Christmas Eve and the New Year's Eve, and that's a little bit rough for everyone involved. We haven't decided yet, but just future comings. But for the most part, go on run every week, no matter what, is where we're at.
Yeah, Wednesday is the 24th. Yeah, right. Okay, that's a little bit of a conflict perhaps with most people's plans. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe people want Deadlock on New Year's Eve. We'll see. But with that said, obviously, we appreciate you guys, and we've got a lot of great action coming up today. So let's talk about our pick priority to kind of frame the trends that we've been seeing in Night Shift, because every week we get new trends in the meta, what people are picking, banning, and the order and the priority, the value. Where is the value at, guys?
I mean, people are still prioing some of these high damage frontliners like Shiv and Yamato, getting a lot of respect in the ban phase. Kelvin, the mainstay. But I think Holiday really has been one of the biggest winners. For a while, I think people struggled to find really the place for Holiday. And then I think it's really this Lightbringer gun Holiday build kind of burst onto the scene as like, hey, there's a new way to play her. And, she really can be top notch, getting picked early in a ton of games here, as you can see in 8 of those games. So really, really high performance. And then Infernus back in place as a mainstay carry.
So we were breaking down the numbers, or rather Lightbringer was giving me a breakdown on part of why that is. And it comes down to Holiday's late game scaling, where effectively the user point comparison, right? I think at max boons, Warden gets something like 89% more base bullet damage that like everything gets modded on. Holidays is like 189% and gets a benefit from crack shot by comparison. So Holiday goes from like, okay, the gun damage isn't too bad to deal with in the early game, to once you get around like boon level 25, 26, up in that era, you're just 2 or 3 shotting people sometimes with crack shot, especially if you're running lucky shot and you actually proc. It is ridiculous, and you still get all the pick potential and disruption of barrels. So,
and
yeah, I mean,
in complete contrast to that top tier pick, we've got Jason Kaplan as Lash, completely fat kitted, 0 picks on the Lash, absolutely smoked. ZP as Abrams, 3 picks, respectable. But that Viscous, what a firm jawline. So round and amazing. 6 picks. All right, I see you, Viscous.
Has only the finest of holes as well. But look at Mitch. Oh, we're going in.
Going to get deeper.
Going deeper. Yeah.
You had a real trouble getting the straw into your mouth in this costume. I just want people to understand that like finding the actual mouth hole here was a real challenge. But also going to Mitch as Warden, there was 0 wins for Warden. Warden did not look good when Warden got played. Like Warden got played and got banned once, but the overall narrative for Warden just not positive when played.
True.
Yeah, definitely a tough character to make work. I mean, I think it's been kind of buffed and nerfed, and it's in a bit of an odd spot right now. I've seen a lot of people in my ranked games playing like the Gun Warden build, but it feels like in some of these pro matches, it just doesn't quite get off the ground and have the same consistency as, your Infernuses, your Mirage, your Ivies, and now maybe even Holiday competing for that gun carry slot. So big shakeups in the meta. I expect only more of the same. It feels like this is a moment for innovation in Deadlock, for things to potentially shift pretty significantly when it comes to balance.
Yeah, and we're going to be diving into the first roster for our matchup here, Fearless Furies against the Gooballs. And there's definitely a lot to say. So ZP, tell me about these guys, the Fearless Furies. We've seen a lot of really cool and interesting things from them. It feels like, every week there's an opportunity for them to surprise us.
Yeah, particularly in this case where they made some roster changes, where Fargareco gone, Arzo in, Coffin coming in too. So you get some of the old Lodos throwbacks here as Fearless Furies looking to re-solidify themselves. But, big upsides here. Surgery with Signature Hero on the Doorman actually makes a lot of sense, because I think Surgery gave us one of the best performances we've seen on Doorman in recent times. Apocycle looked ridiculous on Victor the few times we've seen that. So, I mean, they have some actually pretty standout players in terms of performances that we've seen. Is it enough to take down Gooballs? Maybe not, but I mean, this team is a threat, and there's a reason why they went undefeated in the qualifiers back when we did Trolley EU. So, I mean, this team, exciting to watch them as they've kind of grown over time.
It's great to see a new team bursting onto the scene here in that top 3 arena, really, in Europe, coming out of the open qualifier. So just really an exciting development here for Deadlock Esports to see some of these up-and-coming players. And as you said, ZP, that they could be a real threat in this match. I think they are probably the underdog. I mean, you got to expect maybe Gooballs to be the favorites, but it's not going to be an easy one. I mean, I think that's one thing that's been shown by that Trolley tournament, is that really anyone can make these upsets happen, and maybe some unexpected victors could even come out today.
There we go. Next roster, the Gooballs. Some of you would recognize them as Mel Team if you were watching the Trolley Open, the EU. They won the EU final, and then we have them now becoming the Gooballs, and their roster: Empty Dreams, ABL, OCs, Overseas, Pom, and Demov is quite threatening. CP.
Yeah, and of course the big movement here, which has caused Buff Enjoyers to go back to trialing players, is that Demov left Buff Enjoyers to join Gooballs, where, the storyline there is that I think Demov just wanted to play with ABL. I think both of them played together in pubs a lot, both respect each other a whole lot. And Demov's like, yeah, I want to play with ABL. I think ABL is one of the best players in the game. Therefore, Demov goes over, joins Gooballs. And I mean, look, Gooballs has looked really good. Not enough to beat the new, Abrahams, which is using 2 players of Buff Enjoyers as a sub, but a team that, frankly is chock full of, really raw mechanical skill, even if every now and then the team fight decisions don't always make a ton of sense from Gooballs.
It's definitely a scary team from, the playmaking mechanical perspective. This is a team that, if they just get rolling early in the game, they could just blitzkrieg you out of the lobby, right? It feels like all of these players could take a nice early farm lead and really snowball, really get out of control. Demov has been a really impressive player to watch, where, for a long time, he was playing, early playmakers into semi supports, but then sometimes he would just pick up a character that scales well with farm and actually just put on a carry performance. We saw him, the Shiv looked really good, and I'm just excited to see how he fits in on this Gooballs roster. And I kind of hoping that maybe he gets a little bit more farm prio and we can see Demov really take that next step up to be the key late game carry. He's been before, but maybe hopefully more consistently for the Gooballs.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. Obviously, it's going to be hard to fight up against the Gooballs, but I think we saw some really cool stuff in terms of the individual skill and play out of the likes of Apocycle and Surgery. I think those are 2 players that really stand out for me in terms of who I'm looking at to have a big performance. But at the same time, as we wait for our Mo 1v1, I'm wondering, do you guys think that they're easy to counter? For example, Surgery is someone that if he does get to play Doorman, if you just ban that away, what else does he have to go to? And similarly for Apocycle, did these players show enough depth of hero pool to have the versatility to play up against the Gooballs?
I think in Surgery's case, definitely so. The Doorman actually kind of surprised that the Doorman was so well refined, but Surgery has also had other heroes that he's been well known for. You go back in a time, you have him with a really good Abrams. You kind of have the mental image of Surgery in your pub games, meleeing your walker, which is why it was called the Surgery tech back in the day, right? So, Surgery's been around for a long time. Probably someone, if you've been watching EU streams, you see a lot, but hasn't been as notable and comp until the creation of the Fearless Furies roster.
Yeah, I do think this is a team that needs to have that diversity of hero picks, as you were alluding to, Dan, because in the end, Gooballs is a team where it's so hard to pin them down. You think about players like Demov and ABL, and they might have some signature picks, but you'd be hard pressed telling me what's their best hero. What are you more scared of, the Pocket or the Mina or the Great Talon or the Geist or the Shiv or the Viscus, right? There's just too many threatening picks across some of their top players. I don't know what you're going to really ban against them other than kind of just standard meta bans. And, I think for some of these players on Fearless Furies, they're about to get tested, because I imagine Gooballs going to bring out all the stops. They're not going to take it easy in that draft phase.
Well, we're going to dive into our Mo 1v1, see how the pick priority ends up going down, or the pick order, I should say. Let's have a look. Let's see who's been practicing their melees, practicing their parries.
Oh my God, off the rip. The double insta. ABL is making mincemeat. Okay. But a counter parry comes in, maybe a little bit slow on that power melee. Tried to do it back to back again.
Oh my,
wait a minute. Wait a minute. No way. I don't think we've seen a comeback on this level in the Mo 1v1 before. Both on very low HP, maybe just a little bit more than one heavy melee. Oh, the parries, the quick melees. Who's going to hit first? Just barely a second faster for ABL. That's about the tightest Mo 1v1 we have ever seen here on the show.
Actually, that maybe 1v1 I think saved the segment, because honestly I was getting kind of bored of it. that was pretty good.
The Mo 1v1s have been lacking a little bit, if we're honest, in the last few weeks, but that one kind of brought it back for me.
Yeah, we need more incentives for the players. Maybe they're just not taking it seriously enough.
Well, I'm curious.
1,000 lashes if you lose the Mo 1v1.
Ooh, there we go.
Well, I'm curious what has changed in the last week, if anything, in terms of pick prio. I feel like the overall sentiment
second pick here. That's interesting. Yeah. I feel like, has that been the case previously?
For some teams, but it hasn't been the most common. But okay, Fearless Furies, they open up, and this is purely anti-ABL. If you're taking down Yamato versus Gooballs, you go, ABL, it's his favorite hero, arguably best player on the team. you don't get to play Yamato, but in turn, what do you give up? And it can be quite a bit of power. Not necessarily the Kelvin, because I think Gooballs are going to ban it, but we'll see. Teams been letting Kelvin through a little bit more recently.
Good luck to you and
Not this time, though.
I think they're wise to take it away because I feel like Kelvin in a way is like that team fight in a box hero where even if you're less confident of like maybe really taking some of these late game team fights against a more experienced team, Kelvin can just be this like, look, we're going to Kelvin dome somebody off alone and we're going to get a kill and the fight's going to go from there, or we're going to dome and do the earn. And, it just puts you in an advantage position early in the fight where there's not that much counterplay. Fearless Furies are going to take the Shiv as a first pick prio. I think this, I kind of like it because I think this is one that is a very scary option for a lot of the playmakers on the Gooballs. And with Yamato down, Shiv can look like a really scary frontliner when somebody isn't ready to stand toe to toe, but it does rely on Shiv having a relatively decent early game.
Well,
Ivy has a response.
Yeah, seeing Ivy here is interesting for Ivy to go this high up in Prio because Ivy's been slipping in priority. Generally speaking, it's been like Paradox and Furnace as your picks that you get when things like Kelvin are not available. So I think if you're Gooballs, you still probably grab the Paradox here, but I don't know. We'll see. Instead, they go in Furnace. They're giving up a lot of initiation and a lot of power, the Fearless Furies, who I think will have zero hesitation to grab at least Paradox as one of the next two heroes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Paradox would have made a lot of sense. I like the Prio and Furnace here, though, at least in the first two. Naturally, very good matchup against Shiv. There's that long damage over time effect that you can put on Shiv. His tankiness really isn't equipped to deal with those extended burns from Infernus, so it makes sense. Fearless Furies grab the Holiday, so a little bit of that playmaking action could be a nice tool to shut down Infernus to kind of limit his playmaking potential here in the mid game.
I know that when we spoke to Gooballs before, they were saying how like the biggest priority really is just to make sure OCs can get something that's playable, and so they did that right out the gate. Vindicta comes in this is still like a pretty highly valued pick, guys.
I mean, this is quite a tempo draft from Fearless Furies, right? Like, Shiv and Holiday, I think two characters that are pretty good about snowballing. Holiday a little bit earlier in the game. Shiv kind of once he hits that max ult power spike. And then it can come out of the lanes pretty hot and continue to play that early tempo. This is something I kind of like to see from maybe a disadvantaged team, is to kind of try to tempo the game out, try to just snowball an early lead and develop advantages from there. But I think the Paradox will mitigate that because this is the quintessential comeback playmaker hero.
I would have loved to have seen the response here of going double playmaker to the double carry, because if you get Infernus and Ivy, they are like two of the better carries in the game at the moment. But Holiday also now is kind of in the world where she's both playmaker and carry, the way that she's been being built. So like that's part of why her value has gone up, is that you don't necessarily need something like an Ivy if you just have a completely farmed Holiday in the end game. Vindicta, though, to your point, Jake, like I think pretty good when you look at the tempo that they're trying to set for Fearless Furies. Okay, Viscus being taken out, Doorman being taken out. I do like the mid-stage Doorman ban here just because I think Surgery did kind of go next level on it the last few times I've seen him on the Doorman.
Yeah, I also like the Viscus ban, honestly. It's like some powerful save and some that early game fighting tempo could be a hero that you kind of don't want to tango with as characters like Holiday and Shiv, where they want to play the game fast. Gooballs grabs the Page relatively early, and Page, I think, has just started to look like kind of a lane dominator hero to me, where, in certain lanes, that shield is just incredibly overwhelming. And if the enemy doesn't have really strong counter poke, you're just going to be buffed out of control with those shields and be so hard to trade with. Don't mind something like a Page and Furnace, but I feel like there's not many bad laning combos with Page. Anybody who can get aggressive is going to like having those shields.
Do we see a pocket for ABL coming through for Gooballs? What is he going to play?
I would love a Pocket. Honestly, I don't mind. I think Pocket's just amazing here. I kind of would like Pocket on either team. Especially because the control isn't amazing for Gooballs. There's very telegraphed control, from Page and Furnace and Ivy in terms of their stuns, but Pocket can pretty easily outplay those. But they go with the Bebop instead. So they're really prioritizing the pick potential and the early game. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of frontliner snowball potential, and it's, for now at least, seems like you're kind of relying on Holiday and Calico and Shiv to a lesser extent to maybe be your late game.
Also, I'll go a step further when it comes to that Page. Like, I actually almost see Page as a devil in recent times. Like, the builds that people have gotten with Page and the amount of comfort people have, like, the amount of times that you think a fight is going well, and then it's like, oh, I'm reasonably high up in the air. Oh, what do you mean a captivating read hit me and I'm just dead? Like, both her early lane power and the ability to, like, set up, you know, pretty deadly lanes if you go with the frontliner, or really even herself at times like can be weirdly effective at just like self-shielding and taking prio. But what she enables throughout the course of the game is kind of ridiculous. Also, Gooballs going with Victor at the very end, that's going to be the ABL hero. ABL was playing a lot of Victor previously if you go far enough back, and I think it's as much of a pick for ABL as it is a deny on the Fearless Furies to make sure that like Apple Cycle doesn't pick it up at the very end.
Bound to fight.
Oh, hello. He's that
Warden
handsome lad.
comes in. Who's that guy?
That's
Warden
a surgery
has
hero.
been up and down, but I don't hate Warden when it comes to like dealing with options like Victor, Billy, and heck, hey, even Page. It's like, you know, if Warden's initiating with the ulti, you can even tank that Page stun and kind of keep going, keep doubling down. I do think this Fearless Furies draft wants to play from ahead. I mean, the Bebop is in the holiday. Maybe you can make some comeback pickoffs, but I think they will have problems if Victor gets to a point of just being able to run you down and, you know, kind of fearlessly aggro your tower. Same story for Billy, right? If you start getting caught by those chains, you could wind up in real trouble, especially Vindicta, you know, Holiday. You could just instantly die from being pulled in from the chains one time. So I think Gooballs have a pretty decisively stronger late game, and if they can get there, I like them. But also, I think Fearless Furies, there's a real shot to tempo the game out and to kind of just play with a pace that maybe Gooballs aren't expecting or aren't ready for in this matchup.
Yeah, combos are there. CP looks kind of scary, to be honest.
As I look at it, though, I don't love the Warren pick. I mean, this is clearly a comfort pick for Surgery, where when we didn't see Surgery on the Doorman, we saw Surgery on the Warden. And that, I mean, part of the reason why we saw Surgery on a really good Doorman in recent times, we went with the idea of like, well, we'll take away the Warden from Surgery. And it's like, oh, actually, the Doorman was way better for Surgery. But I don't love this draft here for Fearless Furies, where yes, they have some good options in the early to mid game that maybe could help snowball, but I think if they lose like even one bad team fight, then you're stuck looking down the barrel of an end game versus Gooballs that was just distinctly vastly better. So I mean, the win conditions are there for Fearless Furies, but they have to be basically perfect from the get-go and can never let Gooballs take a lead.
All right, well, map one coming up, Fearless Furies and Gooballs. We'll have to see how it actually pans out. Take it away, gentlemen.
It's going to be interesting, Jake. I, for one, want to see the lanes. I think it's probably going to be Page Billy lane, at least for one of them for Gooballs. That's been kind of one of the go-to Page partners that we've been seeing. I also want to see how ABL gets set up and who you're laning with the Victor, because that, to me, is probably the most important lane to shut down if you're Fearless Furies. Like, if you have a read on where they're going to be sending the Victor lane, you ideally want to get one of your stronger lane combos there to make sure that ABL just has a miserable early game, if possible.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to be Victor and Bebop both in the mid lane. And when it comes to a hero that shuts down Victor in the very early game, I do kind of like Bebop in this matchup. You know, obviously, when you get later, you could have some problems, but Victor tends to be a little bit vulnerable to being hooked, right? You don't have any of that native mobility. And so if you can get hooked under the Guardian, even someone as scary as Victor can really get bursted down early.
This is a new look. When we've seen Victor get played on ABL teams, it's been ABL playing it, but now you got ABL and Dmov on the same team, and some of their hero pool does overlap. They've decided, okay, we're actually going to put Dmov on the Victor, so this is a bit of a change. And also, another change is Surgery is going to be the one on the Holiday. Apocycle gets thrown onto the Warden instead. So it does make me feel like the Victor pick was quite good, though, because I think if Apocycle, given the choice of the two, would have gone Victor over the Warden for final pick.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like, you know, maybe the more modern version of one of those high spirit damage frontliners. Still, I think Warden, you know, can snowball theoretically and can maybe offer a little bit more utility to the team if the raw damage and tankiness are a little bit lacking. Interested to see how this Page lane matchup goes, though. You talked about, you know, Billy and Page. I think it's super scary combo, one that's very threatening. That being said, hey, this side lane, like, I kind of like Warden plus Vindicta. Like, if you can stake into trap, you know, it's like it's not necessarily like the craziest combo, but if you land it, it's quite powerful. It could be almost guaranteed lockdowns in the early game.
That's probably why they targeted Viscous too, because the one thing that can ruin any sort of binding word combo is Cube. But also, First kill coming out, Arzo rather. Running afoul of ABL early on.
We talked about that. That's a scary lane to give up a kill this early on. You know, Paige and Billy are going to have no fear diving towers pretty quick into this game. Warden taking the challenge against his Infernus, trying to play off the flash, right? Avoid getting burned up too much by that Infernus.
Yeah, as you look to the right-hand side, the problem with the Paige Billy lane is that if they start getting ahead, like they already kind of have inherent bully potential, but the bully potential gets a lot worse if you're, down a kill or two, or just to like get low on HP, because the ability to just disrespect the tower and punish is really, really high in that lane. So, and also, I mean, that's a lane where you've put some of your better early game power, having the Holiday Calico in there too.
Yeah, definitely can be a threatening one. Warden maybe looking to get active here, is hoping to find that combo with the Binding Word. Here it comes. That should be a trap on Infernus. Could be a big problem here for Infernus. Yeah, pulled in. Does parry the Vin. Super low HP, trying to run out of this one. Couple more bullets would be enough to do it, but he just can't quite make the connections, and Empty Dreams is out for now. Oh no, the Vindicta flies over the top, and Coffin gets the cleanup.
It's always good when you finish off what could have been a mistake laid at your feet, going, it's like, man, why do you get parried here? You don't even have to go in for the melee, just left click. And it's like, no, I got it. Activate flight and still fine, but the hook comes in, and Bimov in a little bit of a danger. Should be able to get out, but does pay a penalty for it.
Yeah, and Victor, I mean, even if you do get the ult off early in the lane, you kind of don't want that ability to be on cooldown. Shiv has gone for a very early cold front, so making these trades super punishing when he goes to that 1v1 with Dimov. Still very healthy in this mid lane. So this is getting a little scary, right? If Shiv has that first ultimate online, it could just be a pretty easy kill onto Dimov, who actually just goes back to base and gets the full heal. Or was he just box running and just healing because Victor is Victor? Maybe it was the latter.
Yeah, it's just like, I'll heal. Just give me some time to hit a few jumpstart charges and go from there. But yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of the early cold front too, just being paired with Bebop, because it just makes any sort of hook you land, which is not the hardest to land, by the way, against the Victor, just even more so damaging because you're going to get the cold front in on top of it. But overall, Fearless Furies holding their own here at the beginning. Gooballs, slight lead thus far.
Yeah, and this side lane's about to get active. Paige is extremely close to grabbing that ultimate. Billy goes for the chain, just giving him some harassment for now, but doubles down, diving deep under the tower. Gets one of the surgery, and yeah, he's got that Page ult behind him in a second. Yeah, here's the heal coming in. Gets that nice melee connection. Even Calico's going to be sent back to base. This should be the Guardian, yeah, going down super early into the game, and Paige, Billy doing exactly what they wanted with this lane.
Also, it's criminal how many light melees ABL got off there without getting punished. I mean, it's difficult to read when to drop the parry, but that is brutal when a Billy gets away with murder like that.
There's Shiv ult traded for the Victor ult, but I think that's a trade you take every day of the week here as Shiv. Now the first battle over the urns. Parry's wasted. Holiday, great grab there on the life buff. Dodges both parries. Finds the way to grab the life buff and get out, and that's a pretty big deal, right? If Billy's able to grab that, this lane goes from bad to worse. So really nice play from Surgery, kind of stabilizes things. But here's Billy in the mid lane.
ABL looking to get active and make mid lane a little bit more tenable. Damage here onto the Bebop. Bebop looking to get away. Captivating read comes on in and seals Ayano's fate. That's the power of just having a Page vacuum. But okay, the parry there gonna lock things down a little bit, but
dude,
not enough to get Billy to fully go away.
He just soaked up parry right under the Guardian and just like basically only lost the shield. So the Page is worth her weight in gold right now. Palm really making this game difficult.
Things going a little bit into the middle still as Paige is, it's a new home. And I do like this sort of change up where you realize, okay, one lane is suffering. We got one lane that's been doing well with the Paige Billy, and teams are just taking the opportunity now, Jake, to go, we'll change up the lanes and make what was a losing lane a winning lane and put people that were like struggling into the lane that we already won.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of Paige in the mid lane, especially because she's so strong at clearing out these waves of creeps. It's so hard to just like force a push into her when she's casting that first skill. And now Bebop is looking like a real problem. Like you don't want to hook this guy, he's absolutely happy to tank that and take the fight with you at close range. So Ayana is going to struggle maybe to be much of a threat and has gone for quite a defensive build up here with the Battle Vest and the Bullet Shield.
Yeah, meanwhile, Dimov gets a much less stressful lane on the right-hand side. I mean, yeah, you're still dealing with the Holiday, and, Calico can be a danger, but it's not like what was happening when he was up against the Bebop Shiv lane. So overall, this is really smart gameplay from Gooballs, and I think this is this type of cerebral gameplay that we're going to be seeing more and more as time goes on, where people are just realizing, hey, you can do this and not suffer much of a penalty. That snipe though coming on in nearly takes off Empty Dream's head.
The parry is good enough to grab Billy. The Warden ult turning it around though after the chain, just barely wall jumps away from that binding word, and yeah, that's gonna get him out of dodge. And you see Billy just shrugs off the Warden ult, has gone for the reactive barrier and the spirit shielding. Bebop though getting a lot of pressure on the mid guard in exchange for this. Billy's back and into the fight though.
Yeah, I mean, upside here for Bebop, you have enough green that you're not necessarily going to get run down by Billy, but also Billy's not really taking much damage in turn. It's the battle of two heroes that, for the most part, cannot easily kill each other. We do have a quick little bomb thrown out here by Ano, holding on to the hook at the moment. 31k to 35k.
Yeah, and Ano's been really dealing with the pressure quite well in the mid lane. It's been a struggle. I think Gooballs would have loved to get this mid lane Guardian down pretty quick by bringing the Page Billy here, but they haven't been able to really get the Bebop low enough, and with Shiv around, it's like just a little bit scary to do these hard committed dives deep. Center Sacks now spawning. It's 8 minutes. This could be an opportunity for a bit of a flashpoint for teams to start a fight.
Hook in, and okay, Paige may have bit off more than she could chew here. Goes for the charge, but it's not going to be enough. Killing blow right there. And this is kind of the trouble with some of the early game rotations, that anytime you leave just one character to defend, even when you're ahead or even when you're in a good spot, it's just so easy to dive and finish things off. So, any rotation to try and overload another lane comes with a bit of a cost.
Here's the punchback coming in with Billy here, getting into this fight, getting stuck in on some of these players. Yeah, Shiv doesn't have the execute. Bebop's quite low, so this is looking a little scary. A couple skills missing. I mean, Billy's more shields than raw HP, and a sick parry on the Shiv. The no-look parry should be good for the kill. Even just the bloodletting you think is going to be enough to take down Shiv. Although maybe not. Some fancy footwork there with the help of those Shiv right clicks, and it's just going to be a Guardian down instead of the double kill on top of it.
Overall, though, you look at the game state here, Jake, and the thing that worries me for Fearless Furies is that, think back to what we were talking about. Okay, here's the drafts that both teams have gone for. Gooballs, they were running a team comp that arguably should be a little bit behind in the beginning, but rather than being behind, they've manufactured some reasonable advantages and they're ahead overall. And that, to me, makes the late game equation for Fearless Furies really, really difficult, because I don't think their comp is going to be all that great if it's even, once we hit 20 minutes. Like, Gooballs, to me, just scale a lot better.
Yeah, and Furnace has just been quietly farming up. There's really 3 very significant threats in this game. I mean, maybe even 4. So it feels like Gooballs, their 4 cores are really getting a ton of farm. Everyone's comfortable setting their game up. And Fearless Furies, like you said, right? I mean, right now it's really just Calico to kind of go in and get aggressive, and not necessarily the easiest hero when you have to do with multiple big threats, right? If you just want to hard pop one player, Calico pretty amazing at it, right? But if there's many players, the Page behind with the saves, Paradox here to make things awkward for you as well, and maybe turn things around with the silence, could get awkward. Seeing a big tower pressure here come in on the side lane. The Ivy ult's going to slow it down, but I don't know if she's going to be able to stop this.
Yeah, I mean, the Guardian just a little bit too low at this point. So Fearless Fury is going to leave with the Guardian, but we'll see if they pay a penalty on the outskirt. Get the stun here off the zip. Looking to chase down Bebop, who, again, has been still pretty tanky in this situation, but there is a limit. Instead, Ivy drops on down the dash and goes for the teleport instead. Hot pursuit here by Surgery at the same time.
Yeah, great awareness from Ivy, turning from a kill attempt into just escaping out of that one. Ern's being brought over by Billy, but there's a lot of Fearless Furies players around. I don't think someone's going to be an easy turn in. ABL's got to be careful. Does prop the Ern on the ground. There's an opportunity for a counterpunch here if Fearless Furies want to go for it.
Love the Billy just waiting and wait there. It's like, well, if anyone comes in, they're going to have a tough time. And right now, the tough time appears to be heading towards Surgery. Getting hit here from the immediate bash down, but back and forth. Okay, Overseas comes in from the flank, finds Surgery. Billy just able to walk forward, shields for days, and the HP, the back it up, in off the zip, quick melees, and down goes Calico at the very end. So 2 clean kills here from Gooballs.
Yeah, and that could precipitate an Ern drop. Bebop's still in the neighborhood trying to get fancy with it, but the kill's just flowing in for Gooball. Seems like Vindicta absolutely caught dead to rights there. ABL and Empty Dreams comboing for that one. Ayano does find that pick off onto the Page, but for what worth is it really going to create, right? Victor's now running it down with the urn, and I don't think Shiv's going to be able to stop this one on his lonesome. Yeah, with the Paradox Wall placed on top of it, it's going to be a nice stable urn. Tempted soul deny, but I don't know that Ayano got like a single one of those souls, honestly, as Bebop.
Also, I don't love the soul allocation right now from Fearless Furies, where your biggest left-click threat that you have coming in is Surgery. Except Surgery is broke. Surgery's at 8K, and the way Holiday scales is just not going to be that relevant aside from Lasso for a while. Meanwhile, Chain Gang over in middle. Again, putting Calico in real danger, comes on in, forces the Return the Shadow, but Return the Shadow may not be enough to save it. Bebop, though, coming in, enough disruption to potentially free Calico.
This is insane. He's got all 3 shielding items. He gets like 1,000 shields over the course of that fight, and that's not even really with Paige coming in and making much of an impact. So Billy is just monstrously tanky right now. And at the same time, a pretty huge problem. Like, you can't just let this Billy hit you and make space for players like Empty Dreams and Overseas to bring that damage in. Meanwhile, the carries, everyone's getting farmed up here. There's a lot of cult sacks. Look at this. Is this 5 cult sacks on Gooballs? So talk about late game scaling to just the singular cult sack on Fearless Fury. So you have a major late game problem already brewing up now for the Furies.
Also, forget the cult sacks in the sense of, oh, you got all these cult sacks being used. The fact that you don't have Surgery running cult sack and going more spirit based on Holiday is not what I love to see. It does give you more early game powers Holiday, but given what the team comp Fearless Furies went with is, I don't know. I feel like you actually need to be Gun Holiday to have proper late game power. Going, early game barrel build Holiday, I don't love it, the way the game has evolved right now.
Yeah, I don't love anything about this Fearless Furies position, right? They're falling more than 10K behind, and it's only going to get worse with the cult sacks popping off. You've got to force some kind of play around the map, but it's actually the Gooballs who are continuing to control the tempo and the pace of this game, playing with full confidence, despite the fact that they've gone for a much greedier item build, as you were mentioning.
Well, up in middle, Fearless Furies, they're running out of time to make plays here. Like, you take a look, a lot of the playmaking is going to have to come off the back of Ayano and Surgery. And they need to find it sooner rather than later, because given another big team fight loss, they're not going to have the option. Meanwhile, look at Vindicta under pressure here from Empty Dreams, who's looking pretty healthy here so far. Yeah, you got the rotation coming on in, but it's Palm with the save. Able to drop the shield on to Empty Dreams, and I don't think he would have died anyways, but came nowhere close with the Page support at the end.
Yeah, and a couple players sent back to base to just take a reset. That's allowing more map control now to develop for the Furies. ABL greedy, wants a big creep, not interested in a light snack, wants a full course meal here, and has Torment Pulse now as well on the Billy. So, I mean, he was very tanky before. He built the macro item, and now he really has the threat in the team fight, right? If this Billy is just on top of you, you're gonna die. You're just eventually going to tick out. And not many players can really survive that. Apocycle and Arzo, yeah, maybe they can tolerate it, but this Shiv is kind of having a tough game. Holiday looking to get into this fight. I don't know if you want that smoke, Holiday.
You absolutely do not. If you drop down in there, you are
He's just doing the sinners.
die.
He's just doing the sinners right in front of you.
Yeah, the immediate leave. Like, you cannot stay in there. I mean, getting pretty reasonable barrel poke, but okay, you've caught on up. Here comes the Chain Gang. Have you bit off more than you wanted here? ABL still wants to fight, down to half HP, but the damage being done to Surgery, pretty significant. However, okay, Assassinate at the very end does punish ABL, but you look at the rest of the map, you wonder, what are you losing in turn? And you are losing out kills.
I mean, you do get the 3v1 punish on ABL, which you absolutely needed to find, though. You just cannot allow him to take your doubles like that alone, which is just completely ridiculous that he even attempts it, and then it almost works. But across the map, as soon as Gooballs recognize, hey, you commit a lot of resources to dealing with our aggressive move from the Billy Goat, and we're just going to push you on every other front simultaneously. And in the end, Fearless Furies just weren't ready for that counter punch. Understandable considering the position they're in, but as you're saying, ZP, things are going from bad to worse. The Gooballs in a very dangerous position for their opposition in this game. I mean, they're threatening an offensive urn drop. That seems like too much to me, but at the same time, like the way ABL and Dmov can play with the lead they have right here, it may be more realistic than I'm thinking.
I mean, your most farm players for Fearless Furies right now is Apocycle and Warden, who is absolutely dead off the swap. Quick pick off on the left-hand side. So your biggest threat for Fearless Furies is gone. Now, if you want to slam the urn, you do have a window to do so, although you've brought it so deep into your own territory that maybe Apocycle is back up by the time, and he didn't use Last Stand. in the fight. So, I mean, it's still contestable for Fearless Furies, actually.
Let's go mid.
Yeah, the threat is very real. Fearless Furies trying to find some way to get back into this. But the thing is, you can't just force a team fight, right? It has to be finding that misstep from the Gooballs, who so far have been very clean, very tactical as the way they've approached this lead, like developing it slowly over time. This really does feel like a super potent threat as a team, right? The way they're playing this lead, just kind of not giving their opponent any chance to get a fresh footing in the game. Now, though, 5 players leaning over to this offensive earn drop, I think they might really go for this.
I think they can win the fight if they go for it. Ideally, though, I don't know why you push it right now. You don't have charge up from Paige. This is a little risky, but or you just walk in. Or you just walk in, and it's not even dealt with at all. That is absurd.
I mean, Fearless Furies, they just lack the tools to deal with this. Only the Warden is actually effective in a fight like that, as though, although Billy lassoed under the walker and was Shiv around 2, surely that's enough to get the kill. But you take that trade for the Gooballs, right? 2 for 1 in kills, and at the same time, you get the earn drop. Not only taking it off the map, but also just securing a nice boon of souls for yourself. But it's really just Warden, right? In a fight like that, who can actually participate, and he's across the map. He's in with a split push. Like, this Ivy is going to take your walker about as fast as you can blink, clearly faster than you can get to that fight. So there's a lot of problems being presented, and Gooballs really putting their opponents in an impossible position.
I mean, even if this Warden, like, let's say Apocycle were on Victor or Apocycle were on Yamato, I still wouldn't feel great about the Fearless Furies position. I still think they're in a rough spot, but having Warden as your main late game carry, where yeah, you're using the new Warden gun build, which you go bullet resist shredder, you go intensifying mag, like one of the few heroes that can still get value off mag. But I don't know, I don't love it as Surgery just gets caught.
I mean, the pick threat is real for this Gooballs team, right? It's like ABL with the ulti, it's Overseas with the individual pick off of the swap, and it's very scary to try and play the game slow, but I don't know how you progress it fast. I feel like Gooballs are just in full control, really putting on a clinic, as now they're going to be able to take this side walker, man. I don't think Shiv's making this defense. Maybe Bebop can get over here and turn things around with a big hook, but he's running out of time.
Well, runs on over directly into Infernus. I don't know if Empty Dreams is... Oh, Empty Dreams is a little bit hurt from this, but concussive concussion into the retreat, and you got the backup from Demov, who puts Bebop into the scrap pile.
Yeah, you thought you were getting on an Infernus. Instead, you have to take a face-to-face trade with the Victor. It does not feel good. I like the build out of Demov. I think is that a Headhunter on Victor? Pretty interesting. A lot of healing. Really getting value out of that heal booster. Pretty interesting one. I'm kind of curious to try it in my game. Shiv does have that execute up. Could try to turn this around. Remember, Demov has the Victor also. He's not that scared of Shiv right now.
It's kind of interesting. It's at times one of the more undervalued elements of Headhunter. The fact that you get a pretty reasonable heal off, and for Victor, who's already able to create such judgment misplays from his ability to heal up, it just adds another variable. Also, Apocycle get picked off again. The most important player for Fearless Furies is down.
Counter pick on Ivy. Can it be found? They execute a little bit early, so Shiv is going to miss that reset, but hey, the pick on the Ivy is well worth it. She is absolutely ridiculously farmed right now. Even grabs a siphon despite losing that bag. But that kill is a big one, right? That's a very high impact pickoff. Dealing with one of these split push threats, there's maybe an opportunity for Fearless Furies to play a bit tempo right now. And it looks like they're trying to get everything they can out of it. But meanwhile, Demob's just inting your walker. What are you going to do about this?
Not much. In actuality, Demov has hit the state where he can run at most of Fearless Furies and not really pay a penalty for it. Well, going over, looking for Shiv.
Doing just that.
Arzo's down, and yeah, I mean, okay, you lose Palm early in this fight. So, okay, Victor down, still a shocking reanimation, even if he goes down.
Nice moves. He's being very hard to finish off here. Gets the reanimation inside the room. Shiv finds 1 kill, though, and this fight actually looks to be turning kind of well for the Fearless Furies. Warden getting value out of this fight. Finishes off Victor as well. I don't know if they're going to be able to stick around for more. But the Blood Tribute paying real dividends. He's just standing toe-to-toe with that Victor with no fear. Can he get out of this one, though? Definitely needs to escape on this Warden to make this fight value.
Part of that fight there, too. ABL was just not there. ABL was farming off into the sideline, but the damage from OC is still pretty wild. And, okay, a quick pick in middle into, yeah, part of the fight didn't go well, but we still think we can take mid-boss here and now, while the rest of Fearless Furies is going for Urn. So this is Yep,
and
perhaps
Urn's being
third for
contested by
mid-boss
ABL right now. ABL's not letting this go for free. He's kind of 1v5ing this, but it's making a lot of space, right? You know, he is going to go down, but I think that's going to give the mid-boss secure. Can you get there in time, Fearless Furies? Maybe if they can contest this crystal, this game could be right back in play.
We'll see. Are they going to be able to get there? Get this fight a little bit longer. First crystal over the Gooballs. A charge comes on in. Buys a little more time. 2 crystals, Gooballs, 1 the Fearless Furies. See how the rest of the team fight goes if they can start burning the charges. Instead, Fearless Furies lose their first charge, an only charge on Surgery. Empty Dreams rolling around on cleanup here in the Inferno. Picked up 1 here so far. Combustion back into the middle of the pit. You got Ayano doing a little bit of spacing here with the Hyper Beam, and maybe that'll clear the Furies out. But overall, not the best of trades as Gooballs get to leave with 2 charges.
They're calling the back off. They do drop that nice crystal. Ooh. Great angle from Coffin to shut down Overseas. That leaves only 1 crystal on the field. So I think a nice mitigation from what could have been an explosive game-ending moment for the Gooballs. And Fearless Furies really cut their losses on that one. Can Holiday play way out of this one, though? A lot of spells being thrown after her. She's trying to just desperately drop this Walker before she goes down, and she does claim the prize.
I mean, I think for how that started, it's not a bad result for Fearless Furies. They're still, however, down around 15k, still having to deal with 1 rejuve charge, and you take a look at the game state here, Jake. The right Walker certainly is going to be falling in the next minute or 2, especially with the rejuve backing it up.
Yeah, on that kind of HP, it's just 1 character running under it with spells. I don't think we'll see, you know, really much of a defense at all. And Gooballs, big power play capacitor now coming online for the Infernus. But an attempted catch in the mid lane. Can they pull Bebop back? Stalling him for just a second to get him chained around that corner. It's an easy pick off there. Ayano just does not have the tankiness, and the swap in on Warden could be a real threat for this heavy core. But the Walker's so much HP in the mid lane. I think Gooballs choosing to play this one out a little bit slower. I think wise in this moment. That's a moment you could easily throw the game trying to dive under that healthy mid Walker.
Mid-Walker in general just carries a little bit more of a threat than the left or right walkers do in actuality. Like, it is a really rough terrain to fight in, and even if you have rejuve, even when you're ahead, you have to be careful because you've just seen so many games thrown by underestimating defenders' advantage on mid.
Now we have to see how this Infernus chooses to build here. Already has some very threatening items, right? When you get that upgraded duration on the Silence Glyph, and it's such a threatening active for Infernus to have, where now he becomes a much more serious solo kill threat. And the debuff removers, I mean, they're expensive. They're hard to come by at this phase in the game. Not everyone's going to be able to afford that, especially players like Ayano. Pretty poor, frankly, on this bebop. Only 17,000 souls to speak of. And kind of has to put all those into aggressive tools. I feel like you don't have the luxury of playing defensive in a game where you're behind like this one.
Yeah, the one downside for Fearless Furies, again, going back to the Holiday build, I mean, you do get benefits from having more barrels out early as far as, you know, disruption team fights, but this is the point in the game where you'd love to have your late game scaling Holiday start coming online and being a threat where if you get a lockdown with a, you know, a hook off Ayano, that you have the damage to immediately burst someone down. But you know, Surgery, more in the support Holiday sense, is now kind of forced a lot of the damage output to go through Apocycle because, you know, Elpifine isn't necessarily poor, but isn't really in carry Shiv status right now either.
That's a big pickup, the Boundless for Infernus. So Empty Dream's just going all in on the damage. I think part of this is recognizing, hey, look, if we burn down this Warden, more or less game over, right? If Apocycle doesn't get big damage out in the team fight, I don't see the things going well at all for the Furies. Rejuve is running out of time, and a lot of objectives have been claimed on the map. Ivy has held onto this Stone Form, which doesn't Stone Form this one, just lets the Rejuve pop instead. Maybe value considering it was about to expire. But Fearless Furies sense an opportunity, and they're going to try and strike with everything they've got. Apocycle dropping low, though, maybe getting burned by the Infernus, biting off more than they can chew, taking a fight to the Gooballs and getting absolutely clapped back.
The charge was completely perfect from Palm, not only getting disruption, healing those that were low, and you got an ABL at 3k HP. No fear in the world, just walking down Elpifine. Walker down at the same time. All walkers now gone for Fearless Furies, and the advantage just snowballing in favor of the Gooballs, now up 30,000 souls. And they're not stopping, Jake. Base Guardians and Shrines next on the menu.
And this Ivy, this is what she's meant to do, right? Just appear in your base and absolutely burn it down. 1 respawn time. It's going to be enough for an easy patron drop. Can they punish this Ivy? She's relatively low, but I mean, across the map, Gooballs are getting everything. They're dropping an urn at the same time. There's a counter pressure from this Calico. She should be able to drop this opposing walker, so getting a little bit of a trade back, but the price is so incredibly steep. Gooballs take the base. Oh, they're going for the end here.
Yeah, they're just going in for the end. This is Trolley 2.0, where if they see the end in play, they want to go for it. OCs is down, still plenty up alive, and the patron is getting melted. Gooballs move on to the money match. This is one team, Jake, where if they have the option to end, they take it.
And we're so used to seeing teams back off on that patron drop. I honestly wasn't expecting that, but it's a great call when you have characters like Victor and Ivy, right? That base just doesn't last long under any kind of serious scrutiny. And it's not just the building damage you have, it's the tankiness. It's the ability to endure a long team fight, even in the enemy pit. And Calico, she was trying to get greedy. She was trying to get some kind of a counter trade out of that. And instead, the game's just over. Gooballs, beautiful game from start to finish. I felt Fearless Furies, they did slow things down. They did play it really nice given the disadvantage that was against them there, especially towards that mid-late game. But it felt like Gooballs were just inevitable in this game. It just felt like always it was a matter of time the way they executed.
Well, gents, I'm kind of sad a little bit, but also not sad because I think this is going to make probably for the best of three against Abrahams. You know, what's not to love about that matchup? Our brand new, I feel like, rivalry, the evolution of the European scene with these two titans in Gooballs and in Abrahams. But in terms of, you know, where things went wrong there, I think you guys, you know, mentioned that it needs to be that early mid-game tempo that needs to kind of win out. So what was the main problem that prevented them from being able to achieve that?
You know, I think part of it is that giving up Paige Billy lane, like you went for a lot of early to mid game power in their draft, and clearly they were designed to try and get ahead early. But I don't know if that the early game like necessarily translates to a good laning phase, because they got run over by the Paige Billy lane, and the way that Gooballs was able to transfer the power of that lane to other lanes was really smart, where they go, okay, we immediately won our right lane, we're gonna now shove you mid and do a full lane swap. So, you know, the Victor lane that wasn't doing all that well, they had the opportunity to sort of lick their wounds and get back into the game. So just the power of one really good lane can now be transferred to other lanes, the way teams are playing now.
Yeah, it's a great point out of the early game snowball. I do want to give a lot of credit to this Warden Vindicta lane. It's not a lane we see that much, but this was a real source of strength for the Fearless Furies. I mean, Apocycle was able to be competitive into the late game. The problem was just across the board, there were just too many threats to answer from the Gooballs, but Fearless Furies did make these competitive. And aside from the Paige Billy lane, which, like, let's be honest, that is a disgusting lane to try to match up into, they did get out of the laning stage in a pretty comfortable spot. Like, if this Shiv was left to his own devices, I would say this is a pretty significant win in the mid lane. So there's some good signs for the Fearless Furies, some good things that they can work on going ahead into the future. But in the end, we always knew this Gooballs roster is a monster. There are champions from the Trolley tournament. There's no reason to think that they wouldn't be the dominant favorites in this matchup.
Yeah, I have one question for you, ZP, before we get into the stats. How close are Fearless Furies from Gooballs and Abrahams? Like, you know, how big is the gap?
I think the gap is really expressed the most in hero pools, is that the better teams are less hard to manage and draft. When you go back to the draft phase here, Gooballs went out of their way to deny comfort picks like Victor from Apocycle, to remove Dwarfman from Surgery. They got rid of things that we've seen Fearless Furies do really well on, and this is usually the stopping block for teams that are on the come up that have pretty good mechanical skill but don't have all the pieces, is that inevitably they're a little bit too reliant on some heroes, and when you deny them those heroes, they can't compete quite on the same level.
All right, well, Jake, I mean, you know, you guys are following this one, and with the stats, is there anything that jumps out?
I mean, stats-wise, like, ABL did come out with a very monster game and even made some self-sacrificial plays, right, throughout this game. So it wasn't even like full greed carrying. But I felt like Gooballs really understood each of their power spikes, right? ABL's role was to dominate the early game, to play a very high-tempo style, and OCs and Empty Dreams locked it down with monster farm that secures the base take and the end game cleanup, and overseas and palm throughout the game. I mean, look at that, 16 assists from your two active playmakers, even 0 deaths from overseas on the Paradox. Very impressive. An easy hero to be punished on, frankly, especially given this lineup. You get caught on Paradox by this Fearless Furies draft, you're in very real trouble. So the fact that overseas outplays that throughout the game, really great. You asked, though, Dan, about what's like the margin between these two teams. And as much as I'm hyping up how well the Gooballs played and how effective they were in this match, still a little like this is like one sketchy mid-boss fight is really the gap, right? I mean, maybe Gooballs could have still brought it back, but that attempt on the mid boss, for me was a little bit of a throw, right? Like that got scary. It went 2 for 1 on the crystals, and then, you know, Gooballs clean up the fight, so it feels like, hey, all is well. But that was scary, right? That was a real risk they took. They kind of gambled the game in that moment, and it ended up being okay for them. But I did feel that, like, okay, Gooballs, you might want to be a little bit more cautious against a team like Abraham's. Going for those risky mid bosses maybe is a little bit more scary in another matchup.
Before you get off the stats, if we can stay on the stats for one more moment, I do have a little bit of Warden slander to throw out here. Yes, Apocycle was farming a lot of the game, so you're not in all the team fights, so you get a little bit less damage, but having that big of a soul gap on the rest of your team and being the lowest damage, I think says a lot about Warden's struggles to make things effective when they do eventually get in the team fight. Like, that is brutal. Like, overall, I think you can overreact to stats, but I don't love that stat at all when you've invested so much farm into this character and get that result. It's not good.
Well, we're going to jump
with
into
22k healing, by the way.
Our player of the match. It's
Let's
you can't
see.
spell POTM without Pom.
MVP. Oh,
And MVP.
without Palm.
Yeah.
I see. All right, and I like this one because the page, the support, this is what sends not only ABL off to have a monster start of the game is the play from Palm, but it's also what ensures a lot of these clutch saves on players like Empty Dreams and some, you know, potentially scary moments for the Infernus where he stays alive, he keeps farming. It's because of Palm. Always the right place, right time. Super high kill participation is involved pretty much everywhere across this game. And with a relatively low death count on a character that is notoriously easy to jump on and punish. Really well executed, full commit on the support build, like almost nothing selfish at all in terms of these selections. So great support enabling. It's not often, I think, that we give an MVP to a page, but I feel like this is a game where her impact was really felt.
Yeah, and also we're gonna have some Billy highlights in here, but what you have to notice is look at the shields that have been coming in, where you look at Billy and ABL is able to play with reckless abandon, and a lot of it is because Palm is sitting there, well timing shields, getting good charges in, and most of the big plays that we saw in this game from Gooballs, you had Palm enabling, whether it be with captivating read, shields, or charges. The power of Paige actually cannot be understated right now. I think on a raw power level, she's really good, and on a competitive level, just players have gotten a lot more comfortable getting the most out of her.
Awesome. Well, with that said, guys, I think that wraps this one up kind of nicely and sets us up for our next matchup, which is going to be delicious. And there's not even any trolleys present right now, but delicious nonetheless. Gooballs and Abrahams. It is really our marquee matchup in the European region now, and it is even improved, I think, than our previous Abrahams in a matchup that we would consistently have against the Buff Enjoyers. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think this one's going to be super exciting, especially with Abraham's having some of like the top players subbing in for them, with like the recent roster swaps between these two teams. I feel like there's going to be a lot of drama in this match. I feel like Gooballs is bringing more of these like lesser known players to the fore. And so maybe you'd call them the underdog, but hey, they're coming off a win, right, in the trolley tournament. So maybe they're the favorite, actually, despite coming from the challenger position. This is kind of anybody's game, and this is maybe the start of a beautiful rivalry.
All right. Well, with that said, it's time to go for a quick break so we can get that next match started. We'll see you after this.